Hi everyone, welcome back to Missy's Enchanted Channel. We are on part 9 of True Tales of Ghostly Encounters. So we're getting there. And then after we read this one, I have another book, which is some kind of gothic book. And yeah, I can't wait to read that one. That one looks kind of cool, so yeah. But first we got to finish this one. We still got like a lot. So we're only on page 67 and we have, let's see, about 290 pages left. So yeah. So we are making our way. We're getting there slowly but surely. All right. So we are on In Both Worlds. So I'm going to read that and we'll probably read about 3 or 4 stories today and see what happens. All right, guys. Let's get into it. In Both Worlds. My proof of survival came through someone I scarcely knew. 18 years ago, Millie and Paul moved into the house next door. Pleasant, bothering no one, they soon became neighborhood favorites. Shortly after they settled in, grief left them stunned. Their youngest child, 8-year-old, vibrant, pretty Nicole, died suddenly on a bright February morning. In 1998, I saw Nicole, although I didn't recognize her at first. While reading in bed, I looked up and noticed a girl standing nearby. As I started, she smiled warmly and put fingers to her lips. She emanated such friendliness, I instinctively realized she meant no harm. She reminded me of someone. I couldn't place whom. Slim and lithe, she had smartly coiffed red gold hair and a glowing complexion. I stared, fascinated and wondering, positive she came from another world, but not scared at all. In her mid-20s, she had the poise and chic of a high-fashion model. Most impressive, however, was the deep contentment of her expression, smacking of religious dedication. Oblivious she was on a mission in loving her role. For perhaps half a minute, our eyes met. Then, moving swiftly, she wrote a couple of sentences on a white sheet of paper and deposited it at my side, not touching me. There was a sense of an impassable gap between us. Drawing back, she vanished. No, faded. One instant she was present, the next not. Ditto the paper. When I told Millie of her visit, she asked, how was she dressed? In a sky blue frock, sorry guys, a classy job. It had fancy buttons, silk, I think. She was buried in one like that, and this is the anniversary of her death. But why didn't she leave a message, I asked. Oh, she did, Win. She radiated God's peace and happiness. Plainly, she's with him and also with us. What could be better than that? And that was from Win Essenborn, Newark, New Jersey, April 2000. So she did come and visit them. Well, her, I should say, not them. So that's pretty cool. All right. So that was the last of, let's see if I can find it, apparitions. And now we move to warnings saved by the dead. All right. There's a particular episode of the animated TV comedy The Simpsons involving the family's trip to the funeral of a distant relative, in which Homer Simpson finds it necessary to sternly remind his son Bart not to disrespect the dead. He backs up his fatherly rebuke with information obviously obtained from grade Z horror movies. Don't mess with the dead, boy. They have airy powers, he asserts with goofy insincerity. This is played for laughs, of course, but the readers who contributed the following reports will probably agree with the substance of Aunt Homer's statement. Those airy powers, specifically the ability to foresee dangerous or difficult situations, are used for the benefit of living loved ones in these stories. All right, so now we move on to Hunter's Angel. After Mom's untimely passing in 1957, Dad had her portrait framed in gold and placed it on the mantle as a constant reminder of the way she always watched over family. In December 1964, I was in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains hunting deer with my wife's uncle and cousins at guests of the local Rod and Gun Club. While the others visited with friends at the clubhouse, I hunted alone. Because I was unfamiliar with the area, I stuck to an old dirt trail. Suddenly I saw Mom 30 yards to my right among the tree shadows, but only her head and shoulders were visible, as though her portrait had been transported to the spot without the gold frame and suspended a foot above the ground. I stood dumbstruck, not knowing what was happening or why. Then I remembered my binoculars and lifted them to my eyes. There she was, smiling at me. "Hello, Mom," I said silently, expecting some kind of message, but none came. I watched and waited for what seemed like 5 minutes, but what I later realized was probably not more than 30 seconds. Then slowly her image faded. "Goodbye, Mom," I said. "Thank you for the visit." Still puzzled, I tried to go on hunting. I resumed my slow pace, but before I covered 50 yards, a rifle shot rang out from the top of the hillside on my left. I heard the bullet smack into a tree at height 20 yards ahead of me and saw bark chips fly. Then I knew why Mom was there. She only had to delay me long enough to avoid a meeting with that bullet. And she did it in a way that I was able to accept. There was no doubt in my mind that I would not have walked away from that place without her intervention. I made no effort to identify the shooter. I exited as quickly and quietly as possible, telling no one at the clubhouse. That memory stirs up many emotions. Mom's visit remains very comforting, even after all these years. I know she still watches over her family. And that's John Blassie, Apache Junction, Arizona, June 1994. So if she hadn't showed up then, he probably would have got shot, as he said. So that was good. Yep. All right, now we move on. Tell Dave 47. At the beginning of 1991, I embarked on a new career. The high-stakes game called commodity futures trading. Simply put, this involves buying contracts on commodities like corn, soybeans, gold, or oil for future delivery at hopefully a higher price. I specialized in grains where one contract was 5,000 bushels. I had positions in several grains, but my largest was corn, in which I had 500,000 bushels. A price change of 1 cent resulted in a profit of loss of $5,000. After 5 years, I had turned $5,000 into $300,000. Cool. That's the background. Now here's the story. It was the weekend and I was spending it at home with Shirley, my extremely psychic girlfriend. Both my parents had passed over, but occasionally they drop in and give Shirley a message to pass on to me. One of these messages came on a night that I had gone to bed early and left Shirley to spend the night watching television. The following morning, she told me she had been talking to my dad. He had said, "Tell Dave 47," and pointed to the wall. There was a red 47 on the wall. I tried to figure it out. I reasoned that since I was dealing in large amounts of money, and since the 47 was red, it had to mean a loss. I was going to hit a wall and lose money. But what about the 47? Could it be the 4th day of the 7th month? No, that was Independence Day, and the markets were closed. Could it be the 7th day of the 4th month, or maybe 47 days? I counted the days off on the calendar. The 47th day was April 16th, my dad's birthday. Too much of a coincidence, I thought, and ruled it out. It had to be April 7th, the 7th day of the 4th month. But that day came and went and nothing unusual happened. On April 16th, the 47th day, the price of corn dropped like the proverbial rock. There was no buyers and the price of corn fell 12 cents, as did the other grains. The next day, the price dropped another 8 cents before I can get out. I was wiped out. Everything I had made over the past 5 years was gone. Now, too late, I understood the message from my dad. This is just one of the many episodes that proved for me that life does not end with death. So true. It's scary, but yeah, that's true. And that was from David E. Arvin, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, November 2000. All right, I'm going to read one more. And until the next time. Lady of the Third Dimension. World War II was in its second year in 1942, and our men were away fighting for their country. I was 15 years old and living in a small 3-room apartment in the heart of staid old Boston with mother, who is solid, no-nonsense person with green eyes, freckles, and naturally curly red hair that I have always envied. This particular weekend, my paternal grandmother was visiting us. Grandmother fascinated me. A showgirl in her youth, she was still very beautiful with snow-white hair, black eyes, and a flawless olive complexion. From my earliest recollection, there had been a strong bond between us, and I was happy to relinquish my bed to her and sleep on the couch in the front room. I remember going to bed early as we proposed to go shopping the next morning. Sometime during the night, I was awakened by someone gently stroking my forehead. Sitting on the edge of my couch was a petite, exotic-looking woman with beautiful, piercing black eyes. Her hair, shimmering in the moonlight from the open window, was blue-black and hung loosely to her waist. She wore what appeared to be an old-fashioned flannel nightgown, trimmed with lace and blue ribbons. Her slender figure lay across her lips, signaling me to be quiet. She seemed to sense my fright and smiled warmly. She made no move toward me, nor did she speak. She just hovered protectively over me. Nevertheless, my terror mounted. I lay in a cold sweat, my eyes following her every move. It seemed an eternity before she slowly rose, still smiling, and floated into oblivion. I wanted to cry out, but my mouth was parched, my throat paralyzed. The next thing I remember, my mother saying, "Come on, sister, it's time to get up." Mother and grandmother were already sipping their second cup of coffee as I sat down. "Sister, you're awfully pale this morning. Didn't you sleep well?" grandmother asked. "I had a bad nightmare," I replied, and then I related the details as carefully as I could. Grandmother paled noticeably and said, "No, child, this was not a dream but a visitation. You will see her again. Hear me out, for I have seen her on a number of occasions." My most vivid recollection concerns my brother George, a broad-shouldered, freckle-faced, red-headed giant of a man. At 20, George left home and went to Chicago to make his way. There he obtained employment and lived in a boarding house. George never had been sick in a day in his life. Yet one morning he did not show up for work. His landlady was busy with her daily chores when the doorbell rang. When she answered, she was surprised to see a young priest in a long black cassock who asked if he could see the young man who was dying. "But, Father, I only have one mail roomer, and he went to work this morning," she said. The priest begged her to check, saying that a lovely young woman had appeared at the registry that morning and informed them that a young man was dying in dire need of assistance. She had given them this address. Together, the priest and the landlady climbed the stairs to George's second-floor room. The door was ajar, and they entered. George's clothes were folded neatly on a chair, and his wallet lay open on the oval-top table. George was in bed, lying flat on his back, unable to move. In barely an audible voice, George inquired, "Father, how did you know I was sick? Who sent you?" The priest told him the same story he had told the landlady. Then, realizing the seriousness of George's condition, he administered the last rites. Afterwards, his gaze fell on a large oil painting of Mother that hung over George's bed. "That is the woman who came to the rectory this morning. Where is she?" he asked. George looked puzzled. "That is my mother, sir. She died when I was a baby." "Impossible," said the priest. "I shook hands with her. She was warm and very much alive." 2 hours later, George was dead. We brought him home and buried him in a grave next to Mother. "Now, my child," grandmother continued, "I want you to promise me you will be most careful in everything you do for the next few weeks." On a lazy spring morning, about 2 weeks later, I headed for the bus stop with some of my young friends. We were running, shoving, and pushing one another. At the bus stop, standing with her back towards us, was a petite woman in a pink dress, her black hair neatly pulled back in a French twist. There was something familiar about her, but I paid little attention. We could see the bus coming. As it drew close, someone shoved me. And to my horror, I felt myself falling in front of the oncoming machine. Then someone grabbed me, shortened my fall. Badly shaken, I turned to thank my rescuer and found myself gazing into the face that had hovered over my couch a few nights ago. It was such a shock that I passed out. In the ensuing confusion, the woman disappeared. No one had bothered to get her name, but I knew who she was. God help me, I knew. Several times since then, I have been visited by my great-grandmother, Agnes Elizabeth Riley Murray, born in County Cork, Ireland. Each time she has warned me of impending danger. On several occasions, these warnings have saved my life. Then a few years ago, the postman brought me a letter from my own son, who was then in Vietnam. The letter told of his being separated from his buddies in the jungle and of a sudden encounter with a beautiful woman with flashing black eyes and long black hair. He wrote that she saved his life by delaying his progress through the tropical forest. Then she disappeared. I know, Mother, you would think me insane, he wrote. But of course, I knew he wrote the truth. He, too, has experienced our family's protector, my beautiful great-grandmother. And that was Agnes Smith, El Paso, Texas, March 1974. And that's a cute story. I like that, because someone who warned you that something's going to happen, and when you find out that, this person has already passed and everything, it just gives you a sense of, I don't know, a sense of, what's that word am I looking for? That someone's protecting you. So, yeah. Awesome story. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you guys want to write down below in the comments your thoughts and everything about this, let me know. And I'll see you in a couple of days. Who knows what, but I'll definitely see you. All right, guys, keep smiling, stay safe, and I hope you guys like these little short stories. If so, let me know. All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a couple of days. Bye. Mwah. See you later.